Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Practical Founders Podcast, where every week we hear an amazing story from a serious founder who built a valuable software company and did it without big funding. I'm your host, Greg Head, and this week my guest is my friend Scott Desgrosseilliers, the CEO and founder of Wicked Reports. Of course, he's in Boston, where they say wicked a lot. It's a wicked hard problem that they solve with their multi-touch attribution marketing software to detangle the truth of where leads and business is coming from when digital marketing. And he's also working with the puzzle of growing his own business. It's still growing. He's nearly 10 years into the business and still figuring things out, moving things around in his puzzle. So this is a story of a founder, a very smart founder who has kept going and tried a lot of things and is still working on unleashing and unlocking the growth in his business. So he's a great practical founder. I know you'll enjoy this story. Hey, Scott, welcome to the Practical Founders Podcast. Great to see you.
Great to see you too, Greg. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we saw each other last month in Phoenix. I'm in Dallas these days. You're in Boston, but all the times we've connected in person have been in Phoenix through different networks that we're part of. And I've known you for almost 10 years, something like that. And we spent some time together. You're in Boston. It's the, winter's upon us. Have you had winter yet up there?
Yeah, but I live in a place called Marblehead, just north of Boston. Winters are mild here. Maybe gets down to like 30. So
they're tropical, nothing. By the coast,
I went running in a sweatshirt today and I was hot.
Oh my gosh.
You get used to it.
Yeah, I get it. And you're from the Northeast there. You were from
Maine.
Yeah, you're from Maine, just north of Boston there. And what is Marblehead like? That's not the big city of Boston. Is it,
Oh, it's beautiful coastal town. It was named number 3 coastal town in the U.S., which everyone was upset because no one wants the word to get out. It's hard to get in here. It's like 1-lane roads in. So we like that. It's secluded. Kids run wild after school, like the old days. They're just running all over the town. It's beautiful. I mean, absolutely love it. Never
awesome. Well, great. We're going to talk about your software company that's been going for a while. In our warm up here before the call, I let you know that it's been almost 10 years since you've been in this business with Wicked Reports here. How does it feel after 10 years? Still going? Well,
still hopeful, still struggling some days and still absolutely loving it other days. It's it really is a journey. I feel like I'm a contestant on The Bachelorette. Oh, the journey.
And how so? In what way?
Well, because you're in it and you're doing things, and then when you step up and look from the top down, you think, "Oh man, that was a good decision," or "Oh, why would I ever do that?" You see the good and bad when you're more reflective, but when you're in the fight, sometimes you react.
Yeah, that's right. That's funny. Okay, that's what you mean by The Bachelorette there. So, and I'm a little investor in your company. You took some practical angel investing funding way back when, and I've been getting your reports, and we've been checking in over the years. And I just love hearing from you. It's not all sweetness and light, and you go forth with a video and show your screens and other financials, and this sucked, and we fixed that, and this worked, and so I've been hearing those reports. So more than almost anybody else I know, you're getting right to here's what broke, and here's what we're doing, and so forth. So you've been solving this puzzle, and I would say it's a wicked problem, right? Customers and product and go to market and onboarding and messaging and pricing and that whole thing that we're playing with here. And you solve a wicked problem with your software, Wicked Reports. So, and wicked is kind of a Boston or Massachusetts thing.
It's a New England thing. It means very or something. Wicked good is something better than good.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's wicked. That's a big compliment.
Okay.
So when I was thinking of, I was like, at the time, I was like, I'm doing these reports for people. Like, I don't want them to just be lame reports. They got to be wicked good reports. I took the good out.
Yeah. And of course, there's the Wicked movie that's taking over the world right now. And all I can think of is for people from Boston, always used to say wicked hard, right? It's hard.
Yeah, this is a wicked hard problem. Marketing attribution, I thought it was just get better data in people's hands and we had the problem solved. But that was really, that that was a wrong assumption. That was where the work started,
Yeah, tell us about Wicked Reports. What does it do and who is it for?
Sure. So we're a marketing attribution platform, and we are for successful SMB and middle level companies with digital marketing teams. So if you're doing multi-channel marketing, it becomes very confusing to figure out what's going on in your marketing because everyone takes full, complete credit for your sales. If you add up your
So when
sales,
something is sold, right? If there was ever a Facebook ad, Facebook says
I got credit. Google says I got credit. Your email system say I got credit, and then anything else you're running will also claim credit. Your SMS tool. So if you add up all your revenue from all your third independent ad platforms and marketing channels, generally once you reach a certain level, let's say 3 million or more in annual revenue, you add up those things, or you look at Google Analytics 4, it's going to say you're making more money than you're actually making. And so the first puzzle was, how do we give the accurate view of what's going on?
And what things in marketing that you're doing, your email, your Facebook ads, your Instagram ads, your everything else, your website landing pages, which ones of those really affected revenue that you should do more of and what you should do less of?
Exactly. And then then it got into the marketing funnel, because then it was like, well, you need to attract new eyeballs. Those new eyeballs take time to convert from prospects to customers. But then when they finally buy, they click on something at the bottom of the journey, and untangling that and then steering the marketer in the right direction was where the next challenge was. How do we score the revenue in a way that's going to lead you to the right decision?
Yeah. So, and how is all this tracking done? So when you get a sale, and is it e-commerce sales or is it B2B sales?
We're B2C. It's e-com a lot, but it could be people selling courses or information.
Okay, on their websites.
We do some B2B, but it depends on the type of model that they have. But I mean,
so when a sale happens, you want to say, of the 20 things we did at marketing, what made that sale happen so we can do more of it?
What made the sale happen? Well, it comes down to what your intention was in your different marketing campaigns, because ideally a successful marketer usually will have some things they're trying to attract new people with, some people they're trying to move people that are already well known with the brand to get them over the finish line, and then sometimes people that have already bought to get them to rebuy. And so all those things are different. We have to score the revenue differently in order to educate the marketer on what's working based on those different intentions.
And how is that tracked? How do you know that somebody clicked on something and watched a Facebook ad or was on YouTube? Yeah.
10 years, 20,000 lines of code. And then we start from real sales and real lead form submissions. So we start from the source data, either Shopify, WooCommerce, your API, whatever you're doing for sales. And then whatever you're doing for marketing when you're capturing leads, if you're doing that, we pull all that in as our conversion data. And then we take all the click data that we can capture and map just from doing this forever and kind of map it together to create a picture of what's going on.
Yeah. And that involves cookies, which has changed through the years, right? The clicks and tracking and third-party tracking and first-party and so forth. All that stuff that has moved around quite a bit in the world.
Yeah, so we've stayed on the right side of that. So we do have a first-party cookie that could load in under the customer's domain. But we prefer server-to-server tracking. And it's a stronger data signal if someone's willingly coming to your website instead of you prowling around when they leave the website trying to infer what's going on. So I just felt it was a higher, it's legal. First, the way we track's legal, but more importantly, it's a better, more quality data signal to just look at when the people are inbound from the marketing coming to where you want them to go, rather than trying to infer from where they left and clicked around on whether something was positive.
And are you getting click data from Facebook for ads and Google for ads and Amazon for ads? And
so we have a couple sources where we pull in click data and some where we don't. And then we also just track the inbound clicks themselves. We find we like our tracking better, but sometimes we'll augment it if people offer it. Certain platforms do, some don't. We take in view data from certain platforms, but that's extremely optimistic. Because I don't know what I did like 5 days ago. I was trying to think, like with my wife before the podcast, we were planning the weekend. Who do we hang out with last weekend? And you're telling me I scrolled by an ad during my busy day, and then a week later I bought because of something I glanced at a week ago? It's just not likely.
Right.
So we take in the view data and we allow our customers to mute or amplify how much they want to give that credit.
Okay.
I don't recommend giving it much, but sometimes there is some cases where it's worth a little bit. You got a great
What's
video.
an instance where this would be like an obvious use case? You do all kinds of things in your marketing, and maybe you're spending it the wrong way because you just didn't know or something.
If you're doing, which most people should be doing, but you'd be surprised, not everyone is, but if you're doing cold traffic prospecting, which means you're going to say, I need to find new people for my offer. I'm going to exclude my CRM and my shopping cart and just go after this interest or this particular type behavior of people and try and find new ones. That's where we shine the most, because inevitably they're going to need more than one touch point. And then the way the ad platforms are built, they heavily weight the last clicks or the retargeting. All the ad platform AIs, you give them a job, you say, I want to hit this number on return on ad spend. Well, they look through and they say the most likely people are the ones that are already familiar with your brand and already bought before or come to the website a lot. So all these AI and all these automatic adjustments with Meta,
That's like cheating. Yeah.
they're all, well, we track whether the customer is new or repeat. And people be saying, why is all these repeat customers in here? And I'll be like, well, let's go check the settings. And lo and behold, the AI has decided it's more likely they'll buy, which is correct. But you got to keep feeding that pipeline with fresh eyeballs, or you get stagnant growth.
Yeah.
So our expertise, we can look forever in the future from a click. We can look forever back into the past to figure out where they came from. And so when people are investing heavily in the top of the funnel, which they should be, half the budget should be on that, because it's the hardest thing to get right. But if you do, that's how you scale. You know how to attract new people, which is different. Someone familiar with the brand, you can advertise and talk to them differently. It's like us now. We got on the podcast. I've already talked to you for years, Jerry. But if it was like the brand first time, I probably wouldn't dial it back much, but I might a little bit at first. You're going to get all the real deal.
Yeah.
I know you, but that's the same thing.
So what size company or maybe even ad spend, digital ad spend is your target? It's not like the biggest companies in the world that clearly do this, so they don't, because they spend billions and they don't want to waste hundreds of millions, right? So they track it as best they can. It's a big math problem. And it's not the little guys that spend just a little bit on ads. Like, what is your sweet spot?
Yeah, our ideal customer is 10 million revenue to 50 million revenue. We certainly have a lot under, and we have some that are bigger, and they work out fine. But our sweet spot is that price and spending $30,000 to $300,000 a month. You want to be spending $1,000 a day, because then it's complete chaos trying to coordinate what the different platforms are telling you versus the reality. Just completely unravels once you have 3 channels and you're spending $1,000.
Right. So it makes sense at a certain point. And if you're spending $300,000 a month or $1 million a month, right, to drive new business, and you're selling something, on Amazon, on your website or Amazon or something, you're driving traffic. How much can somebody save if they see the data in the right way and understand?
Minimum 20%, minimum, and lots of times it's more. But 20% is usually the bare minimum we're going to find that's just spent on, just didn't pan out for whatever reason. Could be the best intentions. It could be that you were lied to in the data. Yeah. It could be both. But that's a minimum that you're going to save. And then we're also going to find places to scale that you left money on the table, particularly in Google. You got like 2,000 keywords in there. Probably 5% of them are what's driving the revenue. Yeah. But what happens is there's so much data to look at that you slicing and dicing all that can get, and then getting accurate data. Never mind if you got a delay in the sales. If you're selling a higher ticket item, let's just say a couple $100 item, people are going to take time to buy. And then if they rebuy, that could be a real valuable customer if you have a bunch of them. And then ads that didn't look profitable actually are, so we'll alert you to turn them back on, things like that.
So it's software that you plug into your system, and it starts to show you what's really happening there, and marketers then can adjust what they're doing to spend more and spend less on the right things now that they have a better sense of the truth of what's going on.
Exactly.
Okay. So does it do it for you automatically, or do you have any services that do this, or is it, you check your system and it says, do more of this and do less of this, and then I can dig around in the data or the charts or whatever?
A couple things. One is we have something called a Wicked Coach. So you can set up automations and you can set up your own parameters, and it'll just alert you like increase budget here, decrease budget here. So you just basically set up a range. If you're if your cost to acquire the customer is below this price, I want to buy more of them. And if it's above this price, I want to cut back, and we'll alert you when that happens.
Right.
So we have that capability. And then what I just finished my, you mentioned 10 years, my 10 years of doing this, I just finished my life's work. I wrote it all down. Then I turned it into training, and now we're training it up AI. Of course, everyone's doing AI. We'll train up AI so that it'll, excuse me, it'll auto-analyze the data for you and just tell, you'll have an intake where you'll give your financials and your KPIs, and then you'll let us know in a given campaign what your goal was so that we know how to score it.
Right.
And then we will look at all our other data points and then just advise you what to do.
Right. So a big company, like, I don't know, if you're Walmart spending a lot of money to do things or whatever, Land's End or something like that, is there a team that does this, that does nothing but the data and helps move things around? Are they just like math people and, data scientists? Or is that what this is?
Yeah, it's data scientists, usually multiple. I mean, those bigger brands will have a team, and then their agency will usually have a data room or a data team, maybe even their own software to help manage everything.
Right.
So yeah, when you get to a certain point, this stuff is assumed to have, it's table stakes.
Right. And AI just isn't magically solving it. And maybe it's making it worse because Facebook's AI and Amazon's AI, their ad platforms are, making assumptions quickly and running.
Yeah, well, a lot of it is, of course they could fix it potentially, but they're driven by just pure revenue. And so they're basically a lot of the meta, what's rolled out is usually you want to turn it off because it's just going to pump
AI
data at the very bottom of the funnel, whatever's working, or look at the highest likelihood and ignore what you were trying to do with your marketing to begin with. So it hasn't been great so far. I mean, it might improve over time, but it's just not there yet.
But like at Facebook and all of that? Yeah. Okay, so where's your company these days? You've had some growing pains and some growing spurts and some, shifts in strategy and so forth. But where are you now? Can you talk about revenues and employees and customers?
Yep. We got 28 people, and we're just approaching 3 million ARR. Mm-hmm. We've had 5 months straight profitable growth. Well, 4 to 5 months profitable growth. Yeah. It was a one-time expense. So we've gotten on the profitable growth train, which is, it's less, it just feels better. It's less stressful. I'd taken maybe $750,000 in angel funding over the years, but turned down, we can get turn down a Series A. Yeah. Turned down a bigger Series A that then went to my competitor. So that was or maybe they're going to fund us both. I don't know, but I couldn't swallow that bigger check they wanted to write. I was like, I'll never get out if I take that money.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've had a little SaaS debt along the way. We'll talk about that. You, 10 years and you're at 3 billion with this kind of wicked problem here. Why do you think it's been so hard to, let's say, unlock this or crack the code and figure out how to grow faster? You're a smart guy. You're one of those math guys that could be the data scientist and see how all the pieces move together and do the report. Why has it, been tricky for you to put the puzzle together and figure out how to get to 10 million and keep going?
Yeah. Well, I think one thing was that I made some assumptions when we were building it, and I was building it almost for myself. Mm-hmm. I just saw this huge problem I was consulting on for Infusionsoft clients, and no one had their data act together. All these companies come in, they're doing real well, but they were a disaster with their data. Mm-hmm. And so I cooked up this little Wicked Reports thing in a spreadsheet first before I even had Wicked Reports. And then all these people want to buy these spreadsheets off me. I mean, I paid for a move across country. I sold like 30 grand in pivot tables, and I was like, Jesus, this is good business. But then maintaining them was a nightmare. So I started building it first just to maintain that and get a few clients here and there. So I decided to give it a go, and I went to the Infusionsoft conference back in 2015. It was in April. Yeah. And I was in Digital Marketers booth, and Ryan Dice and Molly Pittman, all these, internet celebrity, digital marketing celebrities now.
Yes, of course.
Used to just be in their booths. They weren't celebs back then. They were just, people. I mean, I know them both. It's kind of fun. So I go in there and I'm like, hey, and I got my Wicked Reports t-shirt on, fresh off the press. And I was like, hey, how do you track? They were selling this email automation called The Machine to all these Infusionsoft users. I was like, how do you know which email in the machine makes revenue? And they're like, we don't know. How would you tell that? And I was like, well, I know how to do it. And Ryan's like, that's amazing. Come talk to John, who was the data person, and Molly. And the next thing I knew, I was down in Austin and we were cooking up how we were going to track all their email success and marketing. So they were our first big customer. And then while I was there, Ryan can sell like anyone. Next thing I know, I was green to sponsor a booth, but I was like, "Oh, can I get a payment plan for that? It's be $5,000. I could do $1,000 a month." And I think that's what we did. And but then from them I learned, oh man, like it works. But then for someone else to use it, when they got 500 ads running, I got to do this totally differently. But then their support, because they were getting value out of it, they had a huge audience. And then Frank Kern started using it from them, and he'd tell everyone. So that alone got us to like up to our close to probably 800K, 800K ARR just off them guys talking to everyone.
Wow. And when did it become not a spreadsheet, like a prototype or, a proof of concept? You started building it and data would go in the system and do some analysis and show you one way or the other. It has a user interface.
Yes, our MVP, our minimum viable product was, after the spreadsheet, was we used something called Clipfolio, a dashboard tool, and we would pump our data in, because I was the database guy. It was just three of us. I was database guy, the front end guy that was still building the front end, JavaScript guy, and then the CTO who was writing all the script for the tracking and everything. So it's just the three of us. And so I'd push the data in, and then it wouldn't refresh, or you have to it's just this whole disaster. But so then we were like, man, we just got to build our own UI. So we built our own UI, and then Digital Marketer came out with a perpetual traffic podcast, which is still going. Yeah. And their first like case study was this woman, the Betty Rocker, who is doing at-home workout training stuff. And they're like, we need a way to track. We're going to advertise to brand new audiences to read her blog. Then when they read her blog, we're going to retarget them to opt in for this free challenge. And then after the challenge, we're going to try to get them to buy. And I was like, okay, so we need to know what the first click was and what made them a lead and then what made them buy. So we made the attribution models based on that, and they'd talk about it on their podcast. But it was, if anyone got excited about her business model and came in, we had it all aligned for that use case. So that really helped. That was a lot of growth there from that first.
What year was that when you had a product that like you could sell and people could start using it?
So 2016 was when we had a product that kind of was functional. Then 2017, I think at Icon, I think it's when we met. We battled the apps. We came in, Bridesmaid came in number 2, got the big, check at the Nerd Olympics. And then, so 2017 was when we really had something that was functional. And then we had to start thinking about more business problems. Like, geez, I'm doing all the sales as well. I need a database guy. Starting to scale people then, and we had like no process at all. It was just pile them in, and thank God this person can do this job now.
Yeah. So and you're not a young founder. You've done plenty of things in your life here. Did you quit your day job right away and go all in on this? What made you start this company after a long career doing really cool stuff?
Yeah, so I used to run databases at a lot of different cool spots, one being Motorola. I ran a lot of projects there, Quest Diagnostics, and what was my other one? Oh, apartments.com. I was the database guy there. Yeah. And then I wanted to move cross country. We wanted to move out of Chicago. We've been there a long time, so we're like getting ready to move. And so I'm moving. And they're like, well, we don't allow remote employees. And I was like, okay, well, then it's my notice. And they're like, well, you can't give you notice. You're doing all the database stuff. I was like, well, I'm not going to be in Chicago, so something got to give. Yeah. So they decided I could work remote unofficially and just roll into, out of some Boston subsidiary office, which I would just forward my phone to my house. So I wasn't really there. And so I started building out because I had basically a 1-year paid severance / I was still working there and I still kept the databases up, but I also furiously working. It wasn't Wicked Reports yet. It was just spreadsheets. So they said, hey, when the Super Bowl ad goes live, that means we're on the new database system that you're not involved with. And that's your notice that, it goes live. And so you're done like March. So I was done. And, database people, you can get jobs pretty easy, maybe not great ones, but it's a booming market. Not like now, but it was. So I was like, I don't know, I'll find some consulting. But I thought, hey, I'll give this a shot while I consult. So I had a backup where I was consulting still on the side. Yeah. And, gave it a shot, and it was just fascinating to me because I was thinking I wanted to be a systems financial trader, but I like the systems part more than the trading. I'd done trading before. It's fun, and then I thought I read this book called A Passion Test, which is kind of woo-woo, but what came out of it for me was I love to solve puzzles with data. It's like my favorite thing to do, to predict with data. And so, man, did I pick a tricky puzzle here.
A wicked one. Yeah, right.
It never ends. There's always more to it.
Well, you found people who had a problem, and the simple thing is, if you have a multi-step marketing process, right? You're, tracking your data to see what's really going on will save you a ton of money, and that went pretty quickly. And some bigwigs, helped you broadcast that. You got to $1 million in revenue pretty quickly. Did you think this is easy? Or
I was just having fun building it, and people just kept showing up and buying, and we were like, "This is great." And then one of our second CRM integration, he wouldn't mind me telling, this was a long time ago. The head of Entreport, Landon, was like, we go out, we started doing booths. That was our big marketing. We go to booths because people get on the demo. So I go to the booth, we give demos, we close people sometimes right in the booth. Sometimes we go to an event, make like 50 grand on a big event. Low event, make 10 grand. That'd be the ring at the booth. We were killing it for a while live. And so we're at the Entreport event, got all this buzz from the fact we can do all this stuff. And then Landon calls me. He's like, "Hey, my team's blown away. What you guys got? I think I'm going to buy you guys." And I was like, "Sweet." And this was right. My wife was due with our third kid. So I think she went on maternity leave. I'm not positive on the dates, but I think she was somewhat pregnant there. And so we're all psyched. He's going to buy us. Then he talks to iBankers. Then it's getting complicated. Then he changes his mind. He's not going to. So I'm like, geez, I think I got something here. I can't find anyone else that's doing it the way we are. Anyone else doing it is way more expensive. Someone I even, barely know, CEO of a successful company, wanted to buy us out of the blue. I think I got to get my shit together. So, then I start thinking of getting operating agreements, going for a patent and all this crap that I don't like, but some of it was worth the time. Some of it wasn't. And then my wife, we have our third child. Then she gets laid off the week she gets back from maternity leave. And then it got real because we were counting on she making good money. She had the insurance. Yeah. I was moonlight consulting here and there, making 5-10 grand a month, whatever. So we were doing fine. And then all of a sudden I'm like, because, I work then it's on to be at work 80, 90 hours a week, get paid $1,000 for the month. I'd be like, she's like, "You've been working all the time." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not getting paid. We got to hire a new programmer." Or I don't know what to tell you. We only brought in 20 grand. This was back in the day before he did that. So then he did that. So then that was when I started getting serious. Tried to spend a bunch of time trying to get a patent. That didn't pan out. Always be new prior art that would come out I'm like, just find all the prior art. Then I can look at it all. Because you get these 100-page, 200-page documents. You have to read through them all, verify where you're different, tell the lawyer going to charge you a couple $100 an hour and sort it out. Ugh. Wasted a lot of money on
You have a patent? We don't talk about this much.
I just ended up with prior art.
Okay. So you gave up on that there.
It's too much time and money, and finally had to cut bait.
This week's podcast is brought to you by my friends at Fullscale. Last year, I interviewed 3-time software founder Matt Watson on this podcast about his successful practical founder journeys. Matt leveraged offshore development talent in his last 2 SaaS companies to hire quickly and scale up efficiently. His top developers and designers were offshore in the Philippines, but they weren't one-off contractors and they weren't difficult to manage outsourced agencies. He found an endless supply of top tech talent who became savvy members of his team, working hard every day to get things done. So for his 4th tech venture, Matt created Fullscale, which is one of the fastest growing software development companies in any region. Fullscale vets, employs, and supports over 300 professional developers and designers and testers in the Philippines who can augment and extend your core dev team. I know practical SaaS founders who use Fullscale to grow faster and avoid the product development nightmares that can kill a growing startup. So visit fullscale.io and see why their approach works so well, and book a call to see if they can help you. Now back to our podcast. When did you feel like this was a real company and maybe starting to pay you?
So I think it was right after 2017 when when we hit that battle of the apps, it was something about, I mean, we came runner up and won 10 grand for it, which is great. But also the excitement of the people in these events, when they'd see it, they'd be like excited, bring their friends over, and we'd be getting demos booked, and just like the word of mouth was really high. It was when we hit 1 million. Yeah. And then I was getting paid, I don't know, I was getting paid like probably 6 grand or something a month, which was not what I was used to, but it was something. And then, so things got good. I got a COO in, because I was like, okay, now we're really gonna be able to scale. I just need someone to deal with my operations. But what I did was just kind of like, here, take care of all this shit. I want to go do my fun stuff. And then I had this horrific, so we start scaling. We hire a marketing guy from Active Campaign. We think we're going to like hit the moon. We're all excited. He's a wicked smart guy, but we just, I don't know. It just didn't work out for a variety of reasons. So I got the COO running this stuff in Excel. He's running our budget, and it showed our runway was like, because we never had a lot of money, because whenever we had enough money, I'm like, we were always like, God, we need more people. That was always the case. Yeah. Wait till we get, because originally I was like, all we're going to do, get to like 60 grand. We'll each make 20 grand a month, let the software run itself. Well, that was the most ignorant statement in the history of the world. And so
you spent 60 grand on people.
You spend on the people, and you're still getting like, 4% of that for pay. Because as you scale, then all of a sudden you just have way more to do. It's not the software. If you could find software that actually just ran itself, I mean, not the puzzle I picked. It's not
that's the appeal of funding, is like people think, I'll get it up and then I'll start paying myself. But you get in it and it's consuming everything you've got every hour, and a lot of founders write checks into the business. They don't get paid for 2 or 3 years, sometimes longer. Yeah.
I blew through a ton of money. I cashed out a huge thing I had, blew it all. So what made me finally almost take funding was this Excel budget catastrophe. We had this budget, and the COO would present it. We had like 10 of us, 11 of us at the time, and it would show our runway. And I'm looking at it, and something's just not adding up with what he had. Not it was misrepresented. It's just the formula seemed off. And I'm looking at it. I just have this uncanny sense. You'll look at spreadsheets. It could be like 5,000 rows. I could always find the issue or whatever. Yeah. And I'm looking, and I'm like, hey, shouldn't that be, I fixed the formula. And he goes, oh yeah. And he fixes it, and it's going through all these VLOOKUPs, and it's waiting and waiting. And our number keeps ticking down on the runway. And I was like, wait, what? And when it gets done, we find out we have 11 days in the bank. And we thought we had 90. And I'm just like, and we're just looking there, ghost-like. And then, of course, we triple check the numbers and realize, okay, we're going to bounce payroll in 2 weeks. I mean, it's funny now. It wasn't funny then. Yeah. So I'm just like, all right, I got to get off the call. I got to just like breathe and like think about what I'm going to do. And so I'm looking at what we're going to do, and like, okay, we're going to have to lay some people off. Maybe it's temporary. And then I was thinking also, because then I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be able to get paid now, or I wasn't going to pay much, but I'm really just not going to get any money. And that was a real low point, because like I had to call my father-in-law and be like, work out like him sending me like 10 grand personally, so that like all hell, I mean, we could have like pulled out of retirement, but otherwise we were like to our limit. And fortunately, and it wasn't like he was like super rich, but he was one person I could count on that was going to do that. It really was. It's hard.
How did you pull out of that?
I get off the call with them, because, then you feel ashamed, because you're like, I got to let people go that trusted in the business. I got to go home and tell my wife, we're not getting fucking paid. And by the way, I got to borrow money from your dad. I just bawled. That was the one time. I mean, I'm very happy, optimistic person. I was just like gutted. Just gutted, that was a low point. Then when I have low points now, I can be like, it's not like the time with the Excel. I'm just irritated with the retention rate one day. It's like, it could be a lot worse. We could be literally running out of money, and now that's like not happening, and then some. So,
every founder I talk to, I probably not every, almost every founder I talk to has 1 or 2 or more near-death experiences with the company on the way. So that was certainly one of them. Did things pick up after that and give you a little more? Because you didn't give up, and you set them onto some.
That was right. We worked together after I recovered from that. From that disaster. Then we worked together. You helped me out with some financials and some like the offer, structuring the offer based on just some things you could see that suddenly got us profitable, like, I don't know, in like 6 to 8 weeks. So thanks again for that. Yeah. It was like 6 to 8 weeks. And it's like, oh, geez, if we just position things this way and tweak the offer like this, then as long as the same rate of sales comes in, we're actually making money. Like, sometimes you get so caught up in the just stress of it, you don't see some things that are right in front of you. At least that's what happened to me. I can't speak for everyone. That's what happened there. So that really helped get us on a nice footing. So then I had this nice growth ticking away, not massive, but like 5 to 6% a month, maybe sometimes 10 to 15. So we were ticking up, got up around 2 mil ARR. I've been talking to a bunch of iBankers at that point. They were always like inbound, all these inbounds. You constantly get bombarded with bankers that want to, make all your problems go away. So right before Christmas 2019, I think it was 2019, I got an offer for a 2 million Series A at the time, but it came with 3 strings. And I loved the banker, wicked nice guy. Liked the bank. They were local. They'd done a bunch of huge deals. So I was like pumped. I was like, it's validation. You don't always think you need it, but sometimes you're like, I want to prove everyone wrong. I want to give Sometimes those are nice little milestones. So they give it to me, but they had 3 conditions. And one was that I had to move my office to Boston. I have 3 little kids and I don't want to be in the city all day and not be able to hang out with them. I'm just not going to do that. I didn't get this job not to have freedom. That was a high priority. After all this, I'm going to give away all my freedom and basically have another boss in the Boston. Because the rent was going to be like, I looked at the rents, 30 to 40 grand. It was going to run me for like a 10-person office. I'm like, I'm going to spend 2/3 of the Series A check on rent. No way. I'm just not doing it. And then they wanted a guy who ended up becoming an investor and a friend of mine. They wanted him to come be the COO, but I just met him. I'm like, I ended up moving on from my COO at the time. Like, I just met the guy. I'm not like, it lost the appeal, and I didn't take that one. Turned it down. It was fine.
Well, this is, I kept up with you. I get your reports, how's it going kind of reports, once or twice a year where you say, hey, it's that time of year and here's what worked this year and here's what didn't work and here's something was really hard and here's what our plan is. And you've been moving these puzzle pieces around. You've shifted, let's say, pivoting, right? Different customer bases, different partners, different data angles, different messaging. Different platform. I don't know. You shifted the product quite a bit. It's way more mature than it was way back then. But
it's a lot. It's come a long way. One thing I'll say after turning down that before we get to the update now, though. So then things got really good during COVID, like bonkers good.
Yeah.
So we were just murdering it. I mean, I literally was just.
Did you you were at 2 million? Did you go to 3 and higher?
We went to just shy of 4.
Okay.
Really fast, and then just over the course of COVID, and then we got an iBanker, this one who had sold another attribution company for a couple $100 million. They've been like, hey, we're going to make you all this money. I'm like, all right, I'll look. I could listen to a few offers. If this can be a couple $100 million, I'm in. And so I started having that, which that's a whole separate project. Takes you away from the business. I mean, it's a lot of time and money when you don't know the first time through it. Now I'd be more efficient if I go through another process. But the time I was like, had to build everything from scratch, work with the bankers, constantly on dog and ponies shows. Yeah. So in that, a household name ad platform outside of their process that was a good partner of ours called me up one day and says, we got an idea. We're going to buy you. And it's literally like 9-digit exit, kind of like your payment guy there. I was listening to his podcast. And so, but then the business, after the COVID rush, then we took on so many people, we didn't scale operations fast enough. A new COO, a new head of
growing pains, right? Yeah.
And not saying it was all on them, but like we hadn't figured out how to retain at scale. We could do it like onesie twosies, but with this flood of people, our operations were cracking. So it was like, if we didn't spend enough on marketing to keep up the revenue, the retention rate was so crappy, which is now amazing, but it wasn't. It would go out and I was like, geez, and the banker's like, you got to keep that number up. Like the buyers that see that, you're going to be screwed. So I was like, geez, what am I going to do? So I took out this loan in hindsight, which is a disaster, but I took out this loan where it was interest only for 18 months. And then you start paying it back. And I'm like, well, the bankers are like, well, you're definitely selling next year. We get these people at the table. You're definitely going to sell. Like, okay, well, I'll just do an interest-only loan. The acquirer can pay for it. Big deal.
That's usually how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were all excited. And so then because we spent enough and just threw enough money at the problem, we could break even with that. But we hadn't fixed the fundamental flaw, which we've now fixed. And so, which I had realized then, So then the Ukraine war breaks out. We have a lot of Ukrainians, like 8 to 10 of them.
Developer
types. The Ukraine war breaks out, and then the rates pop up, and then all the deals go to hell. The one I had, the two we had, one didn't like that we were all the Ukrainian developers. And I was like, well, we're not changing that. Tough. And then the other one was one of the guys in the deal flow that I had to get approval from. We had approval all the way up. And then one last person came in and didn't understand it. And I was like, trying to explain it to him like desperately. Because I was like, if he doesn't understand it, this is $100 million out of my pocket. and he didn't get it. And there's nothing I could do to get it. I tried everything, and it just didn't happen. So then, we're going to this big, what's this, 2023, April 2022. We're going to this meeting in Vegas, company-wide meeting, flying everyone in because we still got all this debt money in the bank. Mm-hmm. Flying everyone in, and I thought it was going to be a big celebration. We're getting acquired. And then I was like, oh no, well, we'll get together and figure out the problem, how we're going to, now shit, I got to figure this problem out even further. And we get everyone together and no one really knew what to do. And so I realized I didn't have the right people because I had to go in personally and help figure all this out again. I couldn't be COO and just podcast.
Founder to the rescue. Right? Founder
to the rescue. It was very depressing again. Me and my wife, my brother and my in-laws were at the Vegas pool before the end of it. And I'm just sitting there rubbing my temple, I'm 10 a.m. and I'm drinking. I'm not a 10 a.m. drinker. And I'm like, and my wife was too, because I was like, oh, we got to gut like half the company. I'm like, it's going to take me like a year. It actually took 2. I guess it's going to take me a year to fix everything. I kind of know what I got to get in and do, but it's going to take a long time. I could see the road. It's almost like you're running a marathon. All of a sudden you get a Boston Marathon, you get to mile 20, you got Heartbreak Hill, you got to go uphill. Yeah. I'm like, oh no. And I just like, it take a while. You got to get your mind right. I just was like, I got to get my mind right on this like huge. I thought I was out, and it wasn't like I was dying to get out. But once you're there, then you kind of take your foot off the gas. You're like, oh,
I hear that.
And then I had to like get right. That whole summer was just brutal summer.
So, and you had now debt and
be a SaaS. Don't be careful what you wish for. Yeah. There's many good times, but it's more. I think it's more compelling to hear about like the scary times.
Well, it sounds pretty scary. And, in the long run, all CEOs and founders go through this stuff. If you go out of business quickly and you can't solve it, then you're saved from the future pain after that. And, if magically you get acquired, some lucky event, you're relieved of duty before you have to solve all these problems. But then if you don't sell, you got to keep going. You got to solve the problems, and the reality hits in the long run. You can't avoid it for too long.
Well, yeah, and now like it forced me built more level of grit. I thought I had enough grit. I was like, I ain't looking for any more.
Yeah,
but I definitely got some more because you get up every morning like 5 a.m. work on the problem, and work on the problem before the kids get up. Because instead of staying at night, once I get to my 50s, I don't want to be up till 1 a.m. coding.
Yeah.
I don't code anymore, but working on stuff. So I get up super early, even though I used to like sleep in. And, what it did, though, is it forced me to just get to the guts of the solution. So now what we have coming out with, I'm like, this solves it to the best of my ability. Once this is baked in Q1, this is going to be amazing. And is
it a product shift or a marketing shift or an onboarding shift or
it's an onboarding shift and what I realized is that, so we went on, I talked to all of our like longtime customers this past summer or spring. And what I realized is that even these really smart people, like the discipline and the methodicalness and the repetitive nature of data analysis, the consistency needed, it's not many people have the time to do it or do it consistently or do it the right way. There's so many moving parts. And then if you've got like 100 ads running and then 50 emails and then you're spending this and you got a boss and you get Kit, there's too much scope of what to work it correctly to get the maximum potential of the data. It takes more than most people have to give. I mean, was
that like an error that for you like those wicked problems and you'll do the work, but you found that almost nobody else would do that level of intensity?
Yeah, it was. Wow. And it was an assumption I kept making. Now my favorite users are the ones that export our data out, run all these crazy formulas and color code the sheets to determine what they're going to do. All the red means stop. And like this guy, Robert at Umzu, he's a case study on our website. He would do that. He would do this super complicated thing. Like he'd run all these other systems on it. And I was like, oh my God, that's what I want our software to do someday. Take the data and actually run the growth engine, be the data scientist for budget allocation. Tell you, here's where your money goes, just like a financial trading system.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So I built it all out. I got the training, and now we've been training up AI on to get to where you look at the data and you have your own custom metrics for your business. And we already know your business cycle, how your customers behave. We've interpreted all that. And it's almost as if you were paying me the 10, 20 grand a month that I get to look at your data and tell you exactly what I say it should do based on our better data than the ad platforms.
That's kind of the delta. If they have a certain amount of ad spend, there's a certain amount of ROI improvement that's going on, but you're not going to show up there, the brains behind the operation, to go sit with them half the month and do the analysis and the assessment and the execution for them, right?
Correct. Yeah. And so I tried to scale me with other people, not that couldn't happen, but then they're going to be high-priced people. They're going to take a couple months to get right, maybe. And then they got to get on. Then they got to cut a long video. Then they got to send it to the person. The person got to watch it. The person going to have questions back and forth. So it's
the recommendations, assessment, like a consultant. More. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So what this is going to enable us to do is, like, when you're looking at your data, it will just say, hey, you'll have to give us a few inputs so that we know what you're trying to do. And I created, is that idea like financial trading. It's like KPI trading zones. You don't really just want a goal. You need a zone where it's business as usual. And if it's out of the zone in the positive direction, you should spend more. And if it's out of the zone, the negative direction, you need to stop. That's at its simplest case. But then you got to know how to score things, how long to wait, what to include, what to ignore. And so I had all these rules written out, and I was like, no one's going to do this. We need to do it for them. So that's where we're in process of building in. I'm really excited because that's got to the real problem behind the problem. You needed better data than Google and Facebook. And then you needed to know how to score it right. And then you need to know how to use it. But then you need to be able to analyze it consistently and not miss things. So now this is going to
this is a common small business software, mid-sized business. Like big companies, they could have, I don't know, a big company would have a data scientist, like 10 or 20 or, hundreds or whatever, like to go, work on this data. But little companies are busy and they need an answer. They're not going to spend a lot of money on it, consultants or otherwise. And, you got to have a pretty straightforward answer for them that they can execute on.
Yeah, it really makes the bar for success higher for a company that's, sub 100 million.
Right.
You got to really provide the value, not just say, "Oh, here's some places to go look."
Yeah. you got to tell them the answer.
Here are the keywords to spend more money on.
Yeah.
And then if Google isn't letting you, it's because of a campaign setting. You got to break it out to its own ad group. You got to take it even one step forward. Like, they're going to try to apply the advice. What are the road bumps they could get into? So I have this massive sheet, all these formulas. I wrote all out, and then I was like, I got to make it easier. So I created a training behind the methodology called the 5 forces system, which kind of is how to just think about it with a couple of tools.
So it's not really just a simple math problem. If you put enough formulas in your spreadsheet and you get enough data, you could tell them the answer. That's a kind of a normal software thing. It's the formulas are in there. You're starting to use AI to intake data and make assessments that are not just a simple or a complex formula. It's not just a big
it's a process.
Spreadsheet. Yeah.
I want to enforce a specific process of how to think about and use the data.
Yeah.
Which is that for example, you need to have a clear intention behind a campaign. I mean, it could just be sell more stuff than that. But likely you're more strategic than that. Why are you launching it? And then that determines how we're going to measure it. And then based on how we're going to measure it, determines how long should we wait until we advise you, because there's time involved.
Right.
And then there's all the different, there could be conflicting optimizations that occur based on what we mine in there. How do we break those ties? So there's a lot that went into it. It was like a very engrossing time, but I feel very a very elusive thing, intellectually satisfied.
Yeah, you left the puzzle there and you're still in it. How have you resolved whether the COO, the leadership team, and who your target is and what the product features are? And you have a lot of partnerships with Google and Facebook and everybody. Like, do those things keep moving around? Or have you gotten better at all of those things?
I do get better at them. And a lot of things that I kept thinking were going to unlock growth ended up not working. And in hindsight, I just think I'd always think like, oh, if we get a partnership with like Facebook, it's going to be amazing. Well, I got some stories to tell you about them, but I don't know how long we have, but geez, and we had this big kid that
you're a little company dealing with a very, very, very big company.
Here's one 2-minute one. So there was in the news, there was this guy, Brad Smallwood. He was the right-hand man to Zuckerberg. And he said something about a measurement problem or something. And my wife's like, you got to email this guy. We can fix this. And I was like, how? So I just decided, I had a couple people I knew at Facebook. I'm like, maybe all the names have the same naming convention. And I guessed his email and emailed him and said, hey, I saw this article. We fixed this. Let me know if you want to talk. Boom. Emails me that day. I want to talk. Puts his person, a right-hand woman on it. She totally gets it. We fly out there. They're going to fund this big study because we could do delayed return on ad spend. Facebook is very good at cold traffic that becomes high-value customers. Now,
one click, yeah.
They do it. You click early, then you do a bunch of advertising, and then like a month later you're buying and like, oh, Facebook's what got me first into the funnel. So they were all excited. Well, then she leaves and goes to Google, and then this other legal team comes in and they blow up the whole case study, and they just want me to give out $5,000 ad vouchers to advertisers to run their measurement tool. And I'm like, I just spent like 4 months getting this dream scenario. They were going to fund like, I don't know, it was like 50 or I don't know, some big chunk. We were counting on that. That was be like 50 to 100 customers. Boom. Because they were just going to go off and say, hey, here's $5,000. Just try us out. Facebook says we're good. That was the whole game plan. And all went to hell right at the finish line. Some legalese came in and someone didn't understand it that came in, and that was that.
Well, is the story as simple as everything looks easy and, because you've pushed on a lot of things, partnership opportunities, potential funding opportunities, leadership changes, messaging and product changes, moving your target market around to, pricing, and pricing plans and onboarding and so forth here. Is the message to practical founders, because nobody's ever told me they got there faster and easier than they thought they would, but like, you're kind of in this puzzle, like trying to find the unlock. Is that unlock, does it happen as easily as you'd think?
Yeah. Well, I always, I know Mark Roberge, he's also from Marblehead. He's a popular speaker, and he presented how HubSpot knew they had someone if they used 5 features. They could just focus on that.
Yeah.
They use 5 features, and it's been taken forever for us to get to that. We know for sure they understood, valued, and used the data. It was way tougher.
Value moment. Yeah.
It was just hard. So we'd always kind of put it off because we had other projects. Yeah. And that's why I finally got to the bottom of it with this one. We've gamified it where you submit a decision you made, and we're paying you in wicked swag. We're literally going to pay you to use the software in hats and mugs and Yetis and stuff. But because I'm like, we have to know they made a decision with the data. Otherwise, anything other to that is just like, we never know. We're sleeping with one eye open. But if they said, hey, look, I just moved budget from here to here because of blah, whatever, something to do with our data, then we know that we have a retained customer. And we chopped our churn rate massively down just for the inklings of this strategy. And now that we have all this coming in, and that's why the profitable growth happened. It's that, people aren't leaving.
Yeah, there you go. And it's a wicked problem, but I appreciate it's taken you a while to, keep changing on the puzzle. Thank you for doing that. As an investor and a friend here, you're still going, you still have a vision. Scott, what is your vision here? You're not trying to be a big enterprise software company selling to the biggest companies and VC funded. You've stayed away from that. What would you like to happen if this unlocks and growth picks up and you stay in the profitable, sustainable zone and, you keep figuring out some of the new puzzles? But what would you like to happen in the next few years in your business?
I'd like to sell.
Okay, you're getting a little tired there. I hear that.
No, it's not tired. It's that this now, like I've been thinking about the same problem for 10 years. So it's and what I want to do is apply what I've learned, because I feel like there's a big problem there may or may not be a big problem with human trafficking. And I feel like it's a data problem to solve. And I'd like to apply my talents to that. but I need to make a certain amount of money so I can go do that.
Yeah.
Now I could start on it now, but I literally, I mean, you're running a company. I don't know how people have like I mean, I play pickleball a lot. That's about it. Otherwise, that pickleball, family, Wicked reports. That's my life. Although it's winter now, so I guess I'll have more free time for a couple months.
So I mean, so you're thinking about other quests that, wicked hard problems that you can work on here. Do you have to grow this to a certain amount before it hits the number, I guess? Do you have a number? Not that I'm asking you to reveal it here, but you have a number in mind, something?
A number, and it's not, if we keep profitable growth, but ramp up the rate of it a little bit, we'll be able to hit it according to the math of all the SaaS guys I read by the end of the year. So I don't know if that'll happen or not. I mean, to me, having this system embedded in that I can then tune the gears on personally, does sound quite fun. That's what I like to do. Tune predictive systems. And I had to do like all my other 1,000 tasks. But now I actually have a good team that's kind of handling all their areas really well. Because I used to have to step in all over the place, and I don't have to do that anymore.
It's almost like if this works, it could be a lot more fun in the business and give you a little bit more time.
Fun. So I'm not like looking to go. I just feel like within a couple of years, it's going to be time. I've been doing it for 10 years. I mean, how long can you do? I mean, that's a long time.
Well, I had Jason Fried on the podcast earlier this month, and he's 20 years with Basecamp this year. So, and I talked to him on a Monday, and he's saying, I think I can get the website down to 2 pages, right? And he's working on it, and working on all the puzzles, right? Because he has fun with that. And he's like, why would I sell this? I love this.
Yeah. So now that this was really fun. The past like couple months building this system and then realizing how to figuring out analogies for training so that it was more accessible, then creating tools so people understood the framework. How could they then use it without having to go back and look at slide 52?
Yeah,
so the training can be educational, but then the tools should run the process without you ever having to go back.
There you go. Right.
So that's what I've set up. So now the team's going to bake it into the software. I'm really in through the AI as well. So yeah, I'm excited to see that happen because then
one of Jason's message, of course, is you can do this for a long time and have fun with it. If you create really good profits and a lot of space and you're not filling up every moment of team and budget, if you create space and have a reasonable pace, like things get fun. If you're behind and trying to catch up to a cash number or the debt load they know that you take on and, slashing through, that's pretty heavy and it's a lot less fun than, challenging yourself to make the website 2 pages, and
that's a good point. Yeah. Cause when I had the bad debt there, that was painful because every day, because they want, P&L every week or their software would see that, we did payroll. They would never understand this. They'd be like, are you running out of money? The burn was like 40 grand today. And I was like, this payroll. Twice a month, all the money goes out. Amazon and payroll. Everyone else, it should be. Then otherwise, let me know. But
right.
God, it'd just be like so stressful.
So it went from a debt to get you accelerating to a deal isn't going to happen and things are breaking and you had to retool the team. So it turned into a heavy load to pay back the debt, I guess there. So that's it.
Yeah.
And debt isn't like equity funding, the angel funds, something happens, like, it's gone, but debt, they come after you.
Yeah. No, it was intense. They have a lot of the reporting requirements aren't bad, but there's always the threat with the covenants that are in there that it's just, I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, the revenue-based financing isn't terrible. You pay that back quick. It's a couple percent out of your rev. That's not a big deal, but I do angel or just, fix the problem that's causing you to need money.
Right. Well, multi-touch attribution software is a known category. It's not a mystical new thing, but it's generally for big companies and enterprises and agencies that do a lot of digital advertising and can optimize and make the most of it. And have people that are kind of expert on their team. But you're trying to solve that wicked hard problem for small businesses and do it in a simple way. The problem still exists. Is the problem changing at all in the world? Is first, third-party cookies went away and privacy regulations, and I don't
It
know how
hasn't for
Facebook
us
and
'cause
Amazon do things. Yeah,
yeah, it hasn't. Well, the Amazon has always been there. So,
yeah,
you have to look at certain metrics, meaning your blended ROAS rate.
yeah.
So if you want to know
Return on ad spend. Yeah,
yeah, so the blended would mean you look across all ad spend and all revenue. And if that number is where you want pulling in Amazon revenue as well, then you can guide your overall strategy that way. If your Facebook
right.
return on ad spend's a little lower, but your Facebook ad spend's driving Amazon sales because you see your blended ROAS is higher or, where you need it to be, then you can keep spending.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is Amazon black box is not going to change. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. But digital ads aren't going away. This tracking isn't going away. The complexity of this isn't going away, even for smaller companies that are starting to spend a lot in digital advertising.
Yeah, no, we have mitigations for all, I thought of all the different risks of what they could try to do. And we have all kinds of things in our back pocket that we don't want to do, but we could do. Because, we're only trying to track inbound traffic to a website that you willingly clicked on.
Yeah.
Because that's the better signal. It's not even because of some data purity thing. It's like that's better intel for you to act on.
Right.
So
for years, your wife, Melissa, was your chief salesperson. She got laid off and started helping in the business, and she became your rock star salesperson and, gave you guys a lot of good insight on what to do, the marketing and your product and so forth. But is she still selling for you? Is she?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She was, she's still selling. How she got into it was she was always giving me tips on how I should be selling it. I was like, why don't you do it? And then she did. And I was like, geez, she's pretty good at this. She's actually better than me at it. So she handled, she's the lead on all that. So,
okay.
Great.
Well, and so you're not reaching for any funding here. I can remember a conversation we had. Somebody wants to give me a big pile of money and funding. Should I take it? And I said, well, what kind of company are you trying to create? And even back then you said, I want to get it to this level and sell it for this much and buy the house in Marblehead. And,
Which we did.
And I said, well, that math doesn't work to raise funding. It's the practical founder math way back when, and it's just taking you a little bit longer than you expected. So maybe the lesson is it's always longer and harder than you think. So, but you're an optimistic guy.
Yeah, we ended up buying that house I wanted. I'm in it right now.
Good for you. Along the way.
Yeah, I had written out the characteristics, kind of like a goal-setting vision thing. And it's almost verbatim what I wrote. So
all right,
really happy. The only thing missing is my wife's dream kitchen. It's got an old kitchen, but we painted the cabinets. It looks nice enough for now.
Yeah.
So, otherwise,
that's
it's
amazing.
Good. The mistake I made getting all excited with these bigger partnerships was you got to always stay really close to the customer, knowing they're getting the value that they're willing to pay for. Because when we started scaling fast, we totally lost track of that.
Everybody started lining up, but for the simple proposition, but it was harder than everybody thought for them to get the value.
Yep.
There.
And so then when I just I got to at least know when I walk away from this industry sometime this decade that I've actually mentally solved it and then done my best to solve it for the customers. And so now I feel like we're at that cusp. It took this long. We certainly have a number of people using it successfully that are smart marketers and what have you, but this will really unlock it for much wider group.
The masses. Bring in the really complex stuff down to the masses. Somebody like me could use it eventually.
You always said you got to find the easy button. I'd be like,
the easy button. Yeah, I know.
I'd be like, it's not easy. You got to wait.
Yeah. Scott, if you would have raised VC funding, that Boston funding or, something back in the day, would you have been able to survive through that, through all the ups and downs and trials and so forth? Or would it, do you think you'd still be around?
I guess it depends on how I would have spent it. I mean, the 2 million, no, the 20 mil we had been talking for, because then the growth rate you got to hit. And then where our product was at, it wouldn't have. I mean, a competitor of ours took 20 million from a similar VC, and then they had to cut a third. Not saying anything against them; they have a nice product, and they seem like good guys. But probably was just the same thing. You hired a ton of people and you don't hit a number, you got to whack a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And just money isn't always the answer. I mean, sometimes I'm sure there are cases where it solved all sorts of problems, but all the VCs that want to just spend when you already have net revenue retention at 120%, like the problem's already solved there.
Yeah, the problem's already solved. You're probably,
already solved. We just got above 100. It was a big elation, but we got to get that other 20.
Good. Yeah, that's great.
We got to where that was a huge win to get there, and it took everything.
Yeah. Scott, thanks for sharing your story of your journey with Wicked Reports on the Practical Founders podcast. What advice do you have for practical founders out there who haven't unlocked their go-to-market, product market fit, net revenue retention, perpetual growth machine puzzle, and it's seeming way harder than they thought, and it's a struggle every year, and then there's new punches in the face that whether it's COVID or a war in Ukraine or, partners moving around and other things like this. What advice do you have for them to keep going and find a way to unlock?
I think you got to find a way to prove to the company and to yourself the customer outcomes. There, some tangible way of knowing the customer is getting the outcome that's going to retain them each time they use the software. Because people try to use it, daily users, usage rate. It's not usage. It's what are they doing when they're in the software? People could come and use it a bunch and be like, I don't get this. I'm out of here. We had all these fancy usage retention people, really smart people have these fun formulas. And it was like, this much usage means good. And then all of a sudden, if people using it for a while and stop using it, then you're like, they'll fill an exit survey maybe, but really you're going to get the real guts of why they might have churned on you. So I think it's all those ways to do it. You just got to build in a way that's foolproof if you can, that they've gotten the value, which for me took 10 years.
Yeah. Well, congrats on your progress here, and we'll keep in touch. I love hearing about your progress every year and the lessons learned. A lot of smart founders have not gotten as far as you have gotten, with the ability to keep going. So sometimes we talk about this in our Practical Founder peer group. So survival, to be able to keep trying things and survive the challenges is at least half the battle.
Yeah, I can remember that.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for being on the Practical Founders podcast, Scott.
Thanks for having me, Greg. It's fun.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks. Thanks for watching this week's founder interview on the Practical Founders podcast. Be sure to hit like and then subscribe to my Practical Founders YouTube channel to keep up with my weekly videos for serious software founders who are building valuable companies without big funding. Check out my blog and information about my Practical Founders CEO peer groups at practicalfounders.com. And follow me on LinkedIn to keep the conversation going. See you next week.